know, when you study the autobiographies of black leaders, you will find that publishing houses in America are never reluctant to publish negative information about black leaders. It's almost a way of assassinating them a second time. Very interesting, because when we look at some of America's celebrities, like when we look at Thomas Jefferson, who owned over 200 black people and was a pedophile who raped a little 10, 12-year-old girl until she became an adult, and Sally Hemings, rarely will you get people to include that in their autobiographies. Okay, we don't get that. You know, so it's amazing how whenever autobiographies or biographies or research is done on African American personalities or African personalities, the worst that can be found, even if it's speculation. Now, a good historian would say that you don't publish speculation. But whenever you see the biography of our great people, speculation is always put in there. Now, if you talk to a Thomas Jefferson biographer, or if you talk to a George Washington biographer, and you say, well, why did you include the fact that George Washington used to get the teeth pulled out of his slaves' mouths and put in his whenever he lost them? They would say such things, well, you know, we couldn't find the actual factual information to corroborate that, even though it exists. So my point is, you know, we have to stop letting people assassinate the characters of our leaders, especially those who have fought and died. Okay, everybody who considers themselves a leader, I don't. You got a lot of hustlers in the black community. And one of the things we got to recognize is we got to be able to separate the strugglers from the hustlers, because we have a bad idea of including the hustlers with the strugglers. Okay? You have to study people. You got to study how people talk. You got to study their activity. See, one of the things that came out in the aftermath of Dr. King's assassination, and one of the reasons, as I go around the country speaking, people always ask me, Mr. Johnson, why do you think black people haven't made as much progress in the 50 years since Dr. King's death as they made in the 10 years leading up to his death, or as they made from the end of the 13th Amendment, end of the Civil War, end of slavery, passage of the 13th Amendment in 1865 until the Civil Rights Movement? Why was so much progress made then and hardly none now? That's because there was a consequence to the Civil Rights Movement. And that consequence was that the Civil Rights Movement created a new class of Negroes. Some people call them the black bourgeoisie. I choose not to use the word bourgeoisie because when you speak of bourgeoisie, you're speaking of people who own the means of production. Okay? So when you say bourgeoisie, you're speaking of a group of people who own. Black people don't own nothing. Okay? So our bourgeoisie is not the equivalent of the white bourgeoisie. They own. We don't. Ours just have a lot of money. That doesn't meet the criteria of bourgeoisie. So I call them the black aristocracy. Okay? We have a black aristocracy. And every city in America has a black aristocracy. I don't know much about Columbus, but I know you got a black aristocracy because it's one of the structural things that was implemented in order to keep black people in check after the death of Dr. King and after the put down of the Panther movement. So instead of blatant racism being used to check black people, you now do what? Elevate certain blacks. And then you use them to suppress the growth of the entire group. Are you with me? Yes. Okay? So, like I always tell people, and this is no hit on educated black people because I'm one of those who have received formal education. But I think one of the big mistakes we make is whenever we try to lead or organize a community-based grassroots effort, we always look for the most educated black person to lead the group. I think that's a mistake. I don't think that the person with the doctorate or the license or the 3 master's degrees should be leading the grassroots movements. Why? Because they have more to lose than the others, and they will be more susceptible to being sold out or paid off. You understand? Give me a jailhouse lawyer. Give me a brother or a sister who is intelligent, who has not invested into the American social order. Give me him, because I know he ain't got much to lose. And when he says he stands for his people, he has to, because he doesn't have the accolades that would allow him to sit at the table of the master. So we got to stop putting elitist blacks in control of movements because they always sell them out. Not every educated black is a member of the aristocracy, but Many of them are. Not every minister, not every imam, but many of them are. Not every elected official, not every business owner, but many of them are. And when we talk about the black aristocracy, it is divided into families.
Boy, what are you doing?
What you mean? I'm chilling. Cool boy chilling.